The morning light filtered softly through the half-open blinds, casting a gentle glow over Alex's bedroom. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his reflection in the full-length mirror propped against the wall. For weeks, he had avoided this moment, fearing the confrontation with the person staring back at him. But today, something was different. Today, he wanted to see her. The girl he had been secretly becoming in stolen hours of privacy, the one he had only dared to glimpse in fleeting reflections. Alex was 25, an average height with a lean build that he had long considered too plain to be noticed. He worked at a small marketing firm in the city, a job that demanded professionalism but offered little in the way of creativity. At work, he was careful, precise, blending into the background unnoticed like a shadow. But at home, in the quiet, he allowed himself to explore a side of him that the world might never understand. Crossdressing had always been more than a curiosity. It was a form of expression, a way to feel complete. Yet the thrill came hand in hand with fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of losing the life he had carefully constructed. The relationship with Olivia was another layer of complexity. She was vibrant, passionate, and fiercely independent, a contrast to Alex's careful, measured existence. They had met in college, bonded over shared humor and mutual ambition, and gradually fallen in love. Olivia knew Alex had quirks, his small habits, and odd preferences, but she had never suspected the depth of his secret. The thought of her discovering his hidden world filled him with both dread and longing. Could she accept all of him? Or would this be the wedge that drove them apart? Alex glanced around his bedroom, taking in the cozy clutter, stacks of books on the nightstand, a collection of scarves and makeup brushes neatly arranged on the dresser, and the array of clothes he had carefully selected over months of trial and error. Today, he had chosen something special, a soft, flowing dress in a muted rose color, delicate lace trimming the neckline, paired with heels that elevated him in more ways than one. The outfit was more than clothing. It was armor, a shield of beauty and confidence he could wear when the world wasn't watching. He took a deep breath and stepped closer to the mirror. The reflection stared back with a quiet intensity. Alex's heart raced as he adjusted the dress, smoothing the fabric over his shoulders. The heels made him feel taller, more poised. Applying makeup was always a ritual, a blend of focus and transformation. Today, he traced eyeliner along his eyelids with steady hands, watched as the subtle blush warmed his cheeks, and applied a soft pink lip color that completed the illusion. Each stroke of the brush was a declaration. He existed fully, unapologetically, even if only here, in this private space. As he studied himself, he noticed something that made him pause. The reflection was not just a mimic of his usual self, it was her. The girl he had only imagined, only glimpsed in private moments, now stared back at him with eyes that held a quiet strength and a hint of mischief. There was a sense of recognition, as though the mirror wasn't just reflecting him, but revealing the truth he had long kept hidden. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. The sensation was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. Memories of past secret moments flooded his mind. The first time he had tried on a dress in Olivia's absence, the way the fabric had felt against his skin, the exhilaration mixed with the fear of being discovered. Each secret outing, brief, private, clandestine, had fueled a longing to be seen, to be accepted. And now, in this quiet morning light, he was facing the culmination of that longing. The door creaked slightly, and Alex froze. Olivia was still asleep, but the sound reminded him how close he was to exposure. Every noise, every interruption, was a potential disaster. Yet he couldn't retreat, not today. He needed to see, needed to confront the truth of who he was and what he wanted. Carefully, he adjusted the wig he had chosen, a soft cascade of brown curls that framed his face perfectly, and ran his hands along the lace of the dress. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he whispered softly, almost to himself, "Today, I see her. Today, I am her." There was a courage in that admission, a sense of stepping into a self he had long denied. The reflection in the mirror seemed to acknowledge it, the eyes shining with anticipation and quiet defiance. Alex stood and took a few steps closer to the mirror, turning slightly to see how the dress moved with him, how the heels affected his posture, how the makeup highlighted features he had never allowed himself to admire. A smile tugged at his lips, hesitant, nervous, but genuine. He was stepping into a dual existence, balancing the life everyone expected with the one he had longed to embrace. Outside, the city hummed with its usual rhythm, unaware of the private transformation unfolding behind closed doors. Alex knew this was only the beginning. Today, he would confront the reflection, the self he had kept hidden, and the story of how he became her was about to unfold. The mirror had spoken, and he was ready to listen. Alex's heart raced as he took a slow step away from the mirror, the image of her lingering in his mind. The quiet apartment felt suddenly charged, like the air itself was aware of the secret he carried. Today wasn't just another morning of private exploration, it was a test. How far could he go before fear overpowered desire? How long could he stay in this persona without being discovered? He carefully adjusted the dress again, smoothing the lace over his shoulders and tugging slightly at the hem. The heels clicked softly on the hardwood floor, each sound a reminder of the duality he embodied, a man the world knew, and a woman only the mirror had seen. The reflection stared back with confidence he rarely felt in his everyday life, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of thrill and challenge. Alex had always been meticulous about his secret life. Every item of clothing, every brushstroke of makeup, every wig was chosen with purpose. He remembered the first time he had experimented, a cheap dress found at a thrift store, wobbly heels, and trembling hands that had barely been able to apply eyeliner. The exhilaration had been intoxicating, but so had the fear of being caught. Over time, each private session had honed his skills, taught him the subtleties of posture, expression, and movement that made the transformation convincing. Today, he felt ready to push further. He moved to the dresser, carefully selecting accessories that would complete the look. A delicate necklace with a small pendant, a pair of understated earrings, and a bracelet that caught the morning light. Each piece added layers to the persona, tiny signals that this was no longer just an experiment. It was an identity he could inhabit fully, if only for a while. His fingers lingered on the items, tracing the metal, feeling their weight, their permanence. As he adorned himself, memories of Olivia crept into his mind. She had always been supportive, but he had never revealed this side of himself. Would she laugh? Be confused? Reject him entirely? These questions twisted in his stomach, a knot of anxiety that coiled tighter with each heartbeat. The thought of Olivia discovering him in this state was both terrifying and thrilling. It added a new dimension to the excitement, a dangerous edge that made the experience feel more real, more alive. With everything in place, Alex finally approached the mirror once more. The reflection that met him was astonishing. The girl in the mirror was confident, poised, and undeniably alluring. She tilted her head slightly, examining herself as he did, as if testing his resolve. Alex ran his hands along the contours of the dress, feeling the soft fabric, the way it draped naturally, the subtle sway with each movement. He adjusted the wig, letting the curls frame his face, and watched as the transformation reached its peak. She was no longer just a reflection. She was a presence, an entity that demanded recognition. The apartment was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant sounds of the city. Every noise, however minor, made Alex flinch. The thrill of secrecy was heightened by the constant fear of being caught. He imagined Olivia walking through the door unexpectedly, her eyes widening in shock, or perhaps in amusement. The tension was almost unbearable, but he couldn't look away. He was drawn to the mirror, to the image that represented both his desire and his risk. He practiced small movements, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, adjusting the posture that accentuated his figure, lifting his chin slightly to emulate the poise he had seen in models. Each motion brought a new wave of excitement. It was more than physical, it was emotional, psychological. He was inhabiting a persona that allowed him to express aspects of himself he had long suppressed. There was freedom in it, but also vulnerability. Every step, every gesture, carried the risk of exposure, and that risk made each sensation sharper, more intense. Alex's phone buzzed on the dresser, a stark reminder that the outside world existed beyond this private cocoon. He hesitated before picking it up, fearing that a message or call might interrupt the delicate balance he had created. It was Olivia, sending a quick text. "Running late this morning. Take your time." Face blowing a kiss, relief and anticipation washed over him. She wouldn't be home for at least another hour. He had time, enough to explore, to inhabit this identity fully, to push the boundaries of what he could reveal to himself. He practiced walking around the room, the heels clicking against the floor, the dress flowing naturally. Each motion felt surreal. He glanced at the mirror repeatedly, watching as she moved with grace, as if guiding him through the experience. It was almost hypnotic, the way the reflection seemed to take on a life of its own. Alex experimented with expressions, small smiles, fleeting glances, the subtle arch of an eyebrow. Every detail mattered. Every nuance of movement reinforced the persona, making it more believable, more compelling. The excitement was tempered by anxiety. Every noise from the hallway, every creak of the floorboards, set his heart racing. He imagined scenarios where Olivia might return early, where a neighbor might knock on the door unexpectedly. Each thought heightened the suspense, making the act of transformation both thrilling and terrifying. The fear of discovery amplified the pleasure of the secret, creating a complex emotional cocktail that Alex had come to crave. He paused to look at the reflection, studying her carefully. There was a moment of clarity, a recognition of the duality he embodied. He was both Alex and her, two identities intertwined, coexisting in the same space, the same body. The tension between them was palpable, a delicate balance that required attention and care. One wrong move, one lapse in focus, and the illusion could shatter, revealing the secret he guarded so fiercely. Time seemed to stretch, minutes feeling like hours as he experimented with poses, expressions, and movements. He admired the delicate balance of vulnerability and confidence, the way the persona allowed him to explore emotions he rarely expressed. There was a thrill in the secrecy, a rush of adrenaline that made his heart pound, his senses heighten. The apartment became a stage, the mirror a spotlight, and he was both actor and audience, performing for an unseen crowd, yet entirely alone. As the hour drew closer to Olivia's return, the tension escalated. Alex felt a mixture of satisfaction and dread. He had fully embodied her, explored the depths of his secret identity, but now he faced the inevitable, returning to his normal self, hiding the evidence, and confronting the risk of discovery. The duality that had felt exhilarating moments ago now pressed against him like a weight, demanding careful navigation. Taking a final deep breath, Alex steadied himself. The reflection stared back, a silent companion, a witness to his journey. He knew that this experience, this full immersion, was only the beginning. There were risks to take, boundaries to explore, and discoveries to be made. The suspense was only mounting, the stakes growing higher with every heartbeat. And in that charged silence, Alex realized the truth. He couldn't turn back now. She, the persona he had nurtured, the reflection he had embraced, was a part of him, and the story of how they navigated this dual existence was only just beginning. The apartment was quiet, almost oppressively so. Alex moved cautiously, heels clicking softly against the floor, each sound amplified in the silence. She, Alex's reflection, his other self, was fully alive in his movements now. Every sway of the hips, every tilt of the head, was deliberate, a practiced elegance that both thrilled and terrified him. He had mastered the physical transformation, but the emotional stakes were higher than ever. Olivia was due back any moment, and the thought of her walking in on this private world sent shivers down his spine. A sudden knock at the door made him jump. His heart raced, adrenaline surging through every vein. Who could that be? He wondered, panic threatening to break through the carefully maintained calm. The reflection in the mirror seemed to smirk knowingly, as if daring him to face the risk. Alex froze, every muscle tense. He could hear his own breath, shallow and quick, as he debated his next move. Should he answer? Should he hide? The knock came again, louder this time. Alex's mind raced. It wasn't Olivia yet. She had promised she'd be late. Could it be a neighbor? A delivery? Whoever it was, there was no time to think rationally. He rushed to the living room, glancing for something to cover himself, a way to maintain the illusion if someone entered. The dress clung perfectly, the wig settled just right, and for a moment, he realized the stakes were beyond simple embarrassment. They were about identity, exposure, control. As he edged toward the door, another sound made him freeze, the familiar tone of Olivia's voice. "Alex? Are you here?" Panic surged. He wasn't sure if it was really her, or if his imagination was playing tricks on him. His reflection in the mirror seemed almost alive, her eyes wide, daring, confident. "You can do this," the reflection seemed to whisper. He took a trembling step forward, opened the door just a crack, and there she was, standing in the hallway, smiling, completely oblivious to the transformation he had undergone. Olivia's gaze swept over him, lingering a fraction too long. Alex felt every heartbeat, every second stretching into eternity. The thrill of being caught intertwined with the desire to reveal this hidden self. Could he tell her now, here in the open? The fear was suffocating, yet exciting. He tried to form words, but his throat constricted, leaving only a trembling smile. "Hey, you look different," Olivia said, her voice soft but curious. Alex swallowed hard, aware of the closeness between them, the unspoken tension hanging in the air. He could see the questions forming in her mind, the curiosity, the mild surprise, and the subtle admiration. His internal conflict boiled over. Should he pull back, revert to Alex, or fully embrace her presence and the persona that had taken so long to cultivate? Before he could respond, another knock echoed through the apartment, insistent and urgent. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Someone was at the door again, someone unexpected. The combination of Olivia and this new visitor sent a wave of panic surging through him. He turned quickly, trying to compose himself, smoothing the dress, adjusting the wig, making sure every detail was perfect. The reflection in the mirror was no longer just a persona, it was a survival strategy. She had to be convincing, flawless, or everything would crumble. The visitor's voice called out, "Package for Alex. Please sign." Relief and anxiety collided in Alex's chest. A simple delivery, yet the timing could not have been worse. Olivia stepped aside, smiling politely, while Alex carefully balanced his poise, signing the receipt with delicate fingers, heels perfectly planted. The adrenaline coursed through him, sharpening his senses, heightening every detail, the softness of the fabric, the weight of the wig, the way Olivia's gaze lingered just a second too long. As the door closed behind the delivery person, Olivia's curiosity grew. "You've been experimenting with something, haven't you?" she asked, a playful tone masking her genuine intrigue. Alex's mind raced. Should he confess fully, or skirt the truth? The moment of tension was almost unbearable. His reflection in the mirror seemed to urge him, "Reveal yourself. Take the risk." Yet fear clawed at him, the potential for judgment, rejection, or even ridicule. Finally, Alex took a deep breath. "Olivia, I've been exploring something about myself," he admitted, his voice shaking but determined. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, she stepped closer, examining him, her expression shifting from surprise to intrigue. The mirror reflected not just a transformed body, but the courage it had taken to reach this point. He was no longer hiding, and yet every second felt like walking a tightrope between acceptance and rejection. Olivia's smile softened. "You really are stunning," she said, a mix of admiration and astonishment in her voice. Alex felt a surge of relief and validation, but the danger wasn't over. He was still dressed fully as her persona, heels and all, and the risk of being fully discovered, or being misunderstood, lingered in every corner. The emotional tension was almost unbearable, the stakes higher than ever. Suddenly, a small mishap occurred. The wig shifted slightly, threatening to reveal the careful transformation he had achieved. Alex froze, panic clawing at him. Olivia noticed, her eyes flicking toward the imperfection, but instead of reacting negatively, she stepped closer, adjusting the wig herself with a gentle touch. "There, perfect," she whispered, the intimacy of the moment sending shivers down his spine. The symbolic act reinforced the bond between them, yet also amplified the suspense. Any slip could undo everything. A loud crash from the kitchen made both of them jump. Alex realized he had left a glass precariously balanced on the counter. The noise echoed, breaking the delicate tension, but also adding a new layer of suspense. He rushed to stabilize the remaining items, heels clacking against the floor, Olivia following him with a mix of amusement and concern. Every movement, every glance, was charged with emotion. The duality of identity, the thrill of secrecy, and the fear of exposure all collided in a single, intense crescendo. Finally, they both paused, breathless. The reflection in the mirror caught Alex's eye again. She, his other self, stood poised, confident, and undeniably real. The room felt suspended in time, a tableau of tension, intimacy, and revelation. He had navigated the challenges, embraced the risk, and yet the climax was far from over. The story of discovery, acceptance, and suspense was only reaching its peak. One final twist, one misstep, and everything could change. A sudden sound outside the apartment, a knock, firmer this time, made Alex's heart leap. Someone else, unexpected, was approaching. The suspense hit a fever pitch. Olivia glanced at him, her expression unreadable, while he glanced at the mirror, seeing both himself and the persona he had embodied. The duality, the risk, the emotional intensity, all culminated in this singular moment. The tension was unbearable, the outcome uncertain. Alex took a deep breath, knowing that what happened next would define not just the story, but who he could be. The knock echoed again, louder, closer. He looked at Olivia, then at the mirror and whispered, "Here we go." The apartment was suddenly filled with a tense silence, the kind that presses on your chest and makes every breath feel heavy. Alex stood frozen, heels firmly planted, heart racing like a drumbeat in his ears. Olivia's eyes were on him, wide with curiosity and something else, something unspoken. The reflection in the mirror stared back at him, flawless and impossibly confident, yet Alex felt the fragility underneath, the fear that one wrong move could shatter everything. Another knock echoed through the apartment, sharper, insistent. Alex's stomach dropped. Who else could it be? His mind spun with possibilities, neighbors, friends, perhaps even someone who knew too much. Olivia glanced toward the door, her brow furrowing in confusion. Alex's pulse thundered. He could feel the duality of his life pressing on him from all sides. The persona in the mirror, Olivia's inquisitive gaze, the looming risk beyond the door. He took a step back, pressing his fingers against the wall for balance, feeling the silky fabric of the dress against his skin. The thrill of crossdressing, the rush of seeing himself as someone else, was mingled with panic. Every second that passed was a gamble. He could pretend, hide, or reveal everything. But the knock came again, more forceful this time, demanding attention. Olivia tilted her head, curiosity and amusement battling across her expression. "Alex, or should I say her?" She teased lightly, but her eyes were sharp, sensing the tension, feeling the secret simmering beneath the surface. Alex swallowed hard, trying to steady his voice. I can explain," he said, though the words sounded hollow even to him. Just as he began to form a coherent explanation, the doorknob rattled. Someone was trying to open the door. Alex's eyes widened in horror, his mind racing. "Not now. Please, not now." The mirror reflected his panic, the split reality he inhabited. The heels, the dress, the wig, they were all symbols of his transformation, yet they now felt like a trap. Olivia's hand brushed against his arm, steadying him. "Who is it?" she asked, voice calm but tinged with concern. Alex could barely speak, fear choking him. I don't know. I wasn't expecting anyone, he whispered. The reflection in the mirror seemed to smirk, a silent dare, mocking his indecision. The knocking grew louder, more urgent. Alex's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed at him to hide, to vanish, to revert to his male self. But the transformation was no longer just physical. It had taken hold emotionally, too. He couldn't simply undo it without exposing his deepest secret. Olivia stepped closer, sensing his hesitation. Alex, whoever it is, will handle it, she said softly, but the uncertainty in her tone mirrored his own. His hands trembled as he clutched the edge of the dress, feeling the soft fabric between his fingers, grounding himself in the persona he had worked so hard to embody. The door suddenly swung open, and a shadowy figure filled the frame. Alex froze, breath caught in his throat. Olivia gasped softly. The stranger stepped inside, voice casual yet chilling. Hey, thought I'd drop by unannounced. Alex's heart sank. The figure's face was partially hidden, but the intent in their stance was clear. This wasn't a friendly visit. The mirror reflected the fear in Alex's eyes, the poised confidence of his female persona, and the fragile balance between them. Everything he had built, the secret, the thrill, the identity, was on the verge of collapsing. Olivia's hand found his, squeezing it reassuringly, yet the tension in the room was electric. Alex's mind raced for options, but none seemed safe. Every move could betray him. Every word could reveal the truth prematurely. The stranger stepped closer, the air thick with suspense, and Alex realized that his next choice would define everything. His reflection in the mirror met his eyes directly, almost daring him. Do you step forward or retreat? Do you reveal yourself fully, or let fear dictate your actions? The room held its breath with him, the silence punctuated only by the stranger's slow, deliberate approach and the quiet rustle of the dress against his legs. Alex's lips parted to speak, but no words came. Olivia's eyes searched his face, waiting for an answer. The stranger's shadow stretched across the floor, inching closer, and for a terrifying moment, Alex felt the entire world narrow to the distance between them, the reflection in the mirror, and the secret that could no longer be contained. Then everything stopped.